Peter Pettigrew and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Episode 10. The Prisoner's Story.
Who the fuck is George Weasley?
No idea.
He doesn't exist. What's that, Pete? George Weasley. He's making it up. There hasn't been a George Weasley since 1743, and that was George Artagus Weasley. He did some pretty questionable things, so the family stopped using the name. No offense, Pete, but how the hell do you know that? Oh, I've memorized the lineage of the great 28 houses through the last 500 years.
Why?
My mom used to give Philomena and I a galleon for every generation we memorized in each house. She said if we were going to raise the Pettigrew name to its previous social status, we should know as much about the other great 28 as possible. Didn't you do that?
No. Well, assuming Wormtail is right, which, considering how fucking weird that is, he must be, who are you really?
I already told you. The better question is, when am I? My brother Fred and I were born April 1st, 1978. Are you saying you're from the future? That's right, Longbottom. Fred and I ran a very successful shop in Diagon Alley after we left school. Everything was perfect, except for Voldemort. The politician? Ha! He's no politician, mate. He's pure evil. And in 1998, he and his army attacked Hogwarts.
What?
Why? I'll get to that, Potter. I will. Fred and I were fighting with the Resistance, defending the castle. He was with our brother Percy when one of Voldemort's Death Eaters sent a curse through the castle wall, and the explosion killed Fred on sight. Oh my! You saw it happen? Not then, no. We'd been separated. Well, anyway, we won the battle. When the war was over, I tried to move on. I even married, and we had a son. Have a son. But I never really healed. Fred was my brother, yes, but when he died, part of me died as well. I started drinking, heavily. Eventually, Angelina left and took little Freddie with her. I was alone. Then one night, I was in Nocturne Alley. Oh, spare me the look, Pettigrew. I'm no dark wizard. I just have a small gambling habit. Well, that night I was winning. Big. Well, one of the blokes I cleaned out wanted one more hand. He didn't have any galleons left, so he took off a necklace and set it in the center of the card table. It had the strangest pendant on it. Pure gold, he said. Well, he lost, and I took it. When I got back to my empty house, I sat on the floor, furniture had been Angelina's, you see, and I opened a bottle of fire whiskey. I was looking at the pendant and noticed part of it could move, could spin. So I spun it several times, and everything shifted. What do you mean it shifted? I don't know how to explain it. The light went backwards. It was dark when I arrived home, but the sun came back out from the west. I had gone back in time. It was a time turner. A what? A time turner, my dear. I've read about them. One spin sends the wearer back in time a single hour. Yes, Mrs. Longbottom, that's correct. I'm quite liking the sound of that, Mrs. Longbottom.
Indeed, my love. Obviously the bloke didn't know what it was, or else he wouldn't have given it up so freely. So what did you do with it?
At first, nothing good. I just used it to cheat at cards, which was very fun. But then it hit me. I could go back in time and save my brother. It made perfect sense. I'd never given much stock to destiny, but if there was anything true about it, this had to be mine, right? It was 2002. 6 years since Fred was murdered. Well, there are 8,760 hours in a year. Times 6 years, that's 52,560 hours. Yes, Peter. 52,000 560 turns of the time turner, and I could save my brother's life. And perhaps mine.
Merlin's beard? How long did that take you? If I had gone straight through, Potter, I could have done it in about 15 hours, but even as dedicated as I was, I had to take breaks. I would spin for several hours at a time. I realized I couldn't do it in my home. The farther I went back, the more traffic there would be in my house.
I won't watch you drink yourself to death. I can't do it anymore, George. Fred is gone, and you, I think you're gone too.
I couldn't risk anyone seeing me, especially myself.
Where did you go?
The tunnel under Honeydukes.
There's a tunnel under Honeydukes?
Long story, Frank. Anyway, I hid out in there, spinning the time turner, sleeping, stealing food, until I made it. I could hear the battle beginning, Voldemort's army gathering literally on top of me. I made my way to the castle, snuck up to the floor where Fred and Percy were dueling two Death Eaters. Then my younger brother Ron showed up, with Hermione and Harry.
Harry?
I was about to call to them, to warn them to move away from the wall, but something happened. I heard a voice telling me to hurry. Instead, I turned around to see who had said it, and then everything exploded. My ears were ringing. Dust was everywhere. I heard Percy crying.
No! 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 Fred! No!
And I knew I was too late. I snuck a look around the corner, and I saw his face. My twin brother's lifeless face, staring straight through me with his empty eyes. It was the worst feeling in the world.
What did you do?
I went back to the tunnel and cried. I'd heard the story from Percy and Ron, but actually seeing his dead body, covered in blood, that stupid fucking grin on his face, I had to get away. I slept in the tunnel that night, and the next morning, I resolved to try again. This time, I would get to the corridor earlier. So I did. But what I didn't expect to see was myself sneaking in from my previous attempt. It was very strange. I watched myself, watching my brothers fight. I knew what would happen. I knew I would be too late, so I called out to me to hurry up.
Hurry up!
Instead of yelling to Fred, he turned around and then the wall exploded. I heard Percy crying again. It was horrible. I realized then I couldn't keep going back to that moment, or else the corridor would be jam-packed with George Weasleys all yelling at each other to hurry up. So I tried a new strategy, but nothing worked. Every time I tried, something would interfere. I even tried to kidnap him once, nicked a mask from a dead Death Eater, put it on, bopped him on the head, and dragged him to the tunnel. What happened? Clever Git escaped, kneed me in the bollocks, and took off to the battle. And then he died. Again. And again. And again. And again. I have watched my brother Fred die so many times. So I tried one more thing. Instead of warning him, I would try to kill his attacker. I hid out on the grounds and just watched the battle. Then I saw him.
Who?
Amicus Caro.
Amicus.
Yes. He was alone. He was shooting out massive curses toward the castle, just hoping to hit someone. Then he turned to something behind him. He smiled and looked right at the part of the castle where my brothers were, fired his curse, and killed Fred again. Now I knew what I had to do. I would ambush him before he could do it. Oh dear. Don't tell me. I went back. He had just inside the tree line. I made to rush him, but I tripped, landed face first in the bushes. I thought he'd already sent the curse, but the wall was still intact. He turned around, saw me, saw where I was looking at, smiled, and threw his curse. The wall exploded, and I ran away, and kept running, playing back what I'd seen in my head over and over. It was then I realized the only reason he sent that curse which killed my brother was because of me.
George, it wasn't your fault.
Oh, yes. Yes, it was.
When I couldn't run anymore, I just walked. I didn't know where I was going, but I eventually ended up right here in Hogsmeade. Broke into the 3 broomsticks, stole a bottle or 2. The village was in a frenzy because of the raging battle, so no one paid me any attention. Went back into the tunnel and started drinking. It was then I got the bright idea to spin the time turner as many times as I could. I thought, if I just went back far enough, back before I was even born, perhaps I would just cease to exist. My mother used to use a spell to bewitch her cookware. She would enchant her spoons to stir the pot on their own so she could do other things. So I bewitched the time turner to start spinning, and I kept drinking. I would pass out, wake up, keep it spinning, drink myself to sleep again. I must have been down there for days, when I realized I wasn't fading away after all. So I crawled out into Hogsmeade, stumbled my way into the 3 broomsticks again for another bottle. When the magical law enforcement squad picked me up, emptied my pockets, found the time turner, and sent me to Azkaban. I didn't know when I was until I saw you lot, and it dawned on me that I didn't have to kill Amicus in 1998. I could do it now, in 1976. Look, mate, I don't particularly like Amicus, but he's just a boy. He isn't guilty of murder. No, Longbottom, not yet. And if I'm successful, he never will be. George, why did Voldemort attack Hogwarts?
Well, I was getting to that. I know there are rules about meddling with history, but seeing as that's what I'm literally here to do, I say, who cares? It was about Harry. Well, what have we here? Recruiting drunks for the Gryffindor Quidditch team, Potter?
What do you want, Snivellus?
We want him. My friends and I were just threatened with murder, so naturally we thought we would have a little fun. Looks like you've apprehended the suspect for us. Thank you for that. Potter saves the day again. How valiant. We'll take it from here.
See, Remus? I told you we should have gotten Dumbledore.
Yes, Pete, you were right.
Fuckload of good it does us now.
We picked up a few more Slytherins from Dervish and Bangs, so I think you should give him to us. Amicus, go get our mysterious new friend.
Gladly.
Potter, this is my chance. Take these ropes off me, please.
Not a chance. You're coming with us.
Expelliarmus!
Confringo!
Avaricadab!
Stupefy!
Longbottom, please, don't let me die tied up like this.
No, of course, you're right.
Finite. Perfect. Now, Amicus Caro.
What do you want with me?
To kill you, of course. Confringo! Avaricadabra! Prongs. Are you okay?
Yes, I think so. James,
Sirius, what happened?
I don't know. Caro and Weasley were dueling and there was a huge explosion. I just saw red and then I was knocked to the ground. Do you see Amicus? Yes, he's there. Banged up a bit, but alive.
What about Weasley?
He was standing right there before the explosion. You mean right there where that giant crater is?
Oh, Jesus.
I think that's a scrap of his shirt.
Shit. He was vaporized.
Hey, I'm okay. Oh, Pete, yeah, glad you're all right. Look, the Slytherins, they're running off. Perhaps we should do the same before the Aurors arrive.
Let me guess. We should split up.
You know, Petey, this time, let's stick together.